Hello, and welcome to Superzeroes Unlimited. There are a few questions that I've been noticing a lot in our league chat that I figured I might as well do some videos to address. I mean, some are like, what is combat rating? How does it work? Another is like, where are the vendors for using a mark of a specific kind? But one I've been seeing more recently is basically, so I'm level 30, what now? So figured I'd do a couple videos to help with that. There are two ways of advancing your character after you've hit level 30. While you'll never get any more power points, as you see, you can still get more skill points. How do you do that, you're wondering? Well, if you go over to your feats menu here, you will see that for every 100 feat points you get an extra skill point. So there are feats with 1 star that are worth 10 feat points, 2 stars are worth 25, and let's see if I can find a 3-star one here. And 3-star ones are worth 50. So there are a lot you can get without much work, like the exploration ones. When you want to adjust where your skill points are, say if you're changing over from DPS to your secondary role, whether, controller, healer, tank, whatever, you can come over here to the respec devices in the aquacultural area, and thanks to a recent update, you can choose to just respec just your skills, just your powers, or both. And as you can see, the base cost is 500, but for every time you respec in a week, it goes up. I think the second time is like 650, and then it goes up from there. So the other way of advancing is through combat rating, which is probably the more well-known of the two. Your combat rating is a weighted average of the different item levels of your gear. I say it's a weighted average because if every spot counted equally, Star Kestrel's combat rating would be 76 instead of the 78 it actually is at the moment. So how do you raise your combat rating? Like I said, you get better gear, or you put mods in existing gear. And if you want to know how to do that, you can check out my R&D tutorial video I did a while back. So you can get good gear from drops from higher level content, or you can buy it. Most of the higher level gear, in addition to cash, requires specific kinds of marks. Let's start with the PvE gear. Tier 1 PvE gear requires marks of triumph, and you can get those from challenge missions, duos, or T1 alerts, which I will go over in the second video. T2 PvE gear requires marks of distinction, which you can get from T2 duos, T2 alerts, T2 raids, South Gotham missions, or the daily duo, T1 duo, or T1 alert. T3 gear costs marks of Krypton. You get these from T3 content, or the T2 daily alert. I do not have any marks of war at the moment, but those are used for T4 gear, and you get those from the Gates of Tartarus or Prime Battleground raids. In the Lightning Strikes DLC, marks of momentum were introduced, and those can be used to buy about T2.5 gear from Central City, and you get those from doing the Central City missions, both solo and group ones. Now you get into PvP marks. For T1 PvP gear, you use influence, which you get from winning, well, actually you get it from winning or losing arenas and legends matches, plus an additional one for every kill you get in those matches. Speaking of legends, you can use Marks of Legend and Marks of Lore to buy new Legends characters. You get 1 Mark of Legend just for participating in a Legends match, 2 for winning, and once per week with the Last Laugh DLC, you can get a Mark of Lore from winning. And now, then for T2 PvP gear, you use, and T3 actually, you use Marks of Tactics, which you get similarly to Marks of Legend, but you get them for both Legends and Arena matches. And then Marks of Strategy are used for T4 PvP gear, which you get from once per week winning Arena matches. Sort of like Marks of Lore. Now I'll show you where you can use some of these marks. In each wing, there is a vendor down here that you can use to buy sort of tier 0.5 gear here that's probably going to be your first gear you use marks for. It requires cooperative renown with whichever faction it is. Star Labs for meta, Sentinels of Magic for magic, and Wayne Tech for tech. So these are pretty good to get just straight off the bat, like within your first day or two of hitting level 30. And they're 34 item level, so that should get you up to being able to do tier 1 alerts. You can buy a similar set of PvP gear down here in the reactor core. I think this is the right terminal. The Archangel set, which does not cost any marks, but is sort of your basic level 30 PvP gear. And you may notice that PvP gear has toughness instead of defense. Toughness is only good against other players. Defense is only good against NPCs. So you don't want to wear PvP gear in PvE, or vice versa. Just something to keep in mind. Okay, now let's go upstairs and I'll show you where you can use your Marks of Triumph and Influence. In the Tech Wing, these are actually 2 separate rooms, but because of the T3 and T4 gear in the Magic and Meta Wings, they've been moved into the same room here. For example, the T1 Meta gear, for example, is this Speed Force Spectrum set here. A full set of whichever type you want, whether it's your DPS or healer or whatever role, requires around 400 marks. So it'll take a while, but it'll be worth it, and you can get individual pieces as you go rather than building up enough for everything. Over here you get the T1 PvP gear, which, as I said, costs influence. There are also some additional PvP styles you can get here, which is just these trench coats, which are actually pretty cool. Let's take a look quick. Okay, now if you go back down out of this room here, you can see where you can get your T2 PvE gear. This is between the rooms where you get the different sets of gear, and as I said, costs Marks of Distinction around 400. Now, to get the higher level PvP gear, you need to go over to the Hall of Heroes between the Magic and Meta Wings. The T3 and T4 PvP gear were just introduced recently. But the T2 has been around for a while, and it's pretty similar is actually less expensive in marks than the T1 and T2 PvE gear. The T3, as I said, also requires marks of tactics, but is quite a bit more expensive, and requires you to have completed a set of T2 PvP armor first. Then the T4 PvP gear requires marks of strategy, and there are actually 2 different styles you can choose from. Or eventually get both. So, in part 2, I will go over some of the missions you get when you hit level 30, and just sort of what to do next. See you soon. Bye.